Have you read my book? Have you posted a review on my book? Seriously, please don't ask these questions straight out the gate with strangers or groups you're new in. Okay, these are like the worst pickup lines you could use in the self-publishing community. All right, now it turns out you can ask these questions, but here's the catch: you have to do it tastefully. Okay, when it's appropriate with the right people. I recently read Self-Pub with Dale's book, Networking for Authors, and I want to share with you what I took away from it, especially from an introvert's perspective. Let's jump in. 2 chapters in the book, he talks about setting up, understanding your network goals and having your author brand in the first 2 chapters, and those are both really fundamental to creating a decent author exposure to the world, so people can find you, and when they do find you, they can kind of hopefully gravitate towards what you're selling, your books and that kind of thing. So yeah, he gives lots of examples, like he mentions Bookbrush's Kathleen and MK Williams, who's a big YouTuber over here on YouTube. So number one, you got to understand your network goals, and if you're trying to sell your book or market your book to everyone, it probably isn't going to work. It's got to be a targeted sort of audience niche. And also you should have like an elevator pitch ready, so don't bore people with 50 minutes of who you are. Just have like a 5-10 seconds kind of thing, grab people's attention, and then hopefully get them into your universe if they want to. And if they're not your kind of people, then that's fine. You're not gonna appeal to everyone, right? So the targeting audience is really important. He also gives like some realistic goals about expectations and how to network with people. He goes into more details, and he's sharing stories about his experiences throughout. Now, one of the things that I really enjoyed was the author brand, crafting a professional online presence. For example, make sure you have your author bio, either in social media, Author Central, or wherever. Make sure that's up to date. Having a professional appearance online, like your author brand image, what people are going to perceive you as, that's really important. So for example, if you like swearing, but it doesn't really match up if you're a children's author, maybe you've got to cut back on the swearing when you're doing appearances online or in person. And the things you share, it's got to be kind of crafted to suit the audience, right? And also he suggests having a press kit. I think that's quite useful, so people, if they want to, they can download everything. You can just use basic stuff, which he suggests, like Canva. You can do that in Canva, which is a free software. So all this stuff you can use on social media or your website. So yeah, the first 2 chapters, really great sort of foundations. If you resonate with any of this, give that like button a warm, cuddly panda hug. The next major takeaway I had was the online networking strategy. So he covers virtual conferences, live streams, social media, all of which I currently do. He mentions like SD Houston, who's quite big in the AuthorTube space. So she runs, for example, the AuthorTube Writing Conference. So that's one way people can network, right? And there's also like writing communities, reader communities between like social media groups, Facebook, for example, Discord, another big one. Basically, you can just go to these groups where people have shared interests, and then just start chatting about the shared interests. I probably wouldn't suggest that you talk about your book straight out the gate, but go talk about the same niche, for example. So if you like romance books, thrillers, horrors, whatever books, then maybe talk about those first, and then it may progress to people asking you what you do, and you can actually share if you want. If they ask, you could share. There's also a bit about collaborating with other authors on projects, and networking with authors. Dale does mention that it's using platforms to network, especially for book promotions. You got to do it tastefully, but make sure you don't be the guy who's always asking people for stuff, basically, right? that's my takeaway. Like, you can be that person, but it turns people off. Okay, so if for example, if there's someone who always asks, oh, can you read my book? Can you buy my book? Have you reviewed my book? And they're always like that, it's a major turn off, right? So my perspective on this, and I think Dale also mentions in his book, is that it's best to offer right? Offer things, not expecting anything. In the future, it may be reciprocated. So you may get something back, may call it good karma or whatever it is. But basically, you can network now, and then in the future you'll probably get something back. It's not guaranteed, but if you're the guy who says, buy my book, read my book, review my book all the time, you're going to find that people are just going to be turned off. Okay, so yeah, Dale actually mentions like quite a few things in chapter 5 about communicating effectively and building relationships, which is quite key. You are building relationships. Even as an introvert, you're doing it on social media or virtual conferences or just online in general, right? You're building relationships. And then, in the future, maybe you can connect people not related to your book, connect people who are looking for, mutual interest, for example. And, those people remember what you've done for them. Right, so if you've helped someone out, guaranteed they will remember you've helped them out in the future. And if and when it comes time that you have an ask, right, for example, you're launching a new book, you might be able to reach out to them if it's appropriate, that and say, oh, by the way, I've got a book launch. Just want to let you know, no pressure to buy or read or anything. I just want to let you know, if you do want to share, I'll be really grateful. That kind of thing, you can kind of soft market it. Right, and throughout the book, Dale basically shares like his experiences, and including the negative stuff, right? So where he messed up like introducing people. So I think that's something I'll definitely keep in mind. So I don't want to like cold prospect people, even though I know they can help each other. I will probably like take his advice and say, feel people out and see if they want to be connected, because they may not have time, they may not have interest, so that's a major tip on building relationships and stuff like that. Dale also has quite a big section about email marketing, which is really important because that's basically the thing that you own. You own the email list, right? So if you lose, for example, you lose access to your books or something, on Amazon KDP, you don't have access to those customers because they're KDP, Amazon's customers, not yours. So it's really important to have an email list because those are your fans, your customers. And, the next bit he talks about is using, potentially, if you're into it, podcasting or video. So you can interview people, you can appear on podcasts or videos to discuss your book or your topics or whatever it is. And that's another way you can network with people. So I thought that was quite good. If you're comfortable, you don't. If you're not, so for example, introverts may not want to do that. I've done the odd interview here and there, but really it's kind of outside my comfort zone, and so I've kind of avoided it. But also I'm on Faceless channel, which means it's difficult to actually get those things. So maybe for me, for example, it may be more suitable for me to go on podcasts where it's mostly verbal, right? That's one of those considerations if you have, anxiety about appearing on video. That's something maybe you can think about. And finally, he's also got this bit about overcoming challenges. So if you've got networking issues and it's kind of like dating, there's a bit of awkwardness and, you've rolled out your best line, hey sugar, how's it going? Or something like that. And it turns people off, male or female. And people are just not into you, right? And you've got to deal with that rejection. You've got to deal with those setbacks. And he's got quite a few tips on how to deal with that, right? So I found that really useful. So the first thing to say is that this book is quite well balanced. It's not all about one type of person, the alpha male who's extrovert central, He's got tips for extroverts, he's got tips for introverts like myself. It's a well balanced book. There's lots of actionable content, so this stuff you can apply pretty much immediately. So yeah, I think there's a lot of good tips, and it's a light-hearted sort of style in which he writes, so it's not like he's lecturing at you. But yeah, I learned so much from his stories and sharing, especially his setbacks. So, I like to learn from people, but I really, really like to learn what not to do from people who've done those mistakes, right? And I've got more than enough mistakes of my own. So I'm just saying it's good to know what additional things not to do. So that that was my perspective on that. Networking doesn't have to be painful, and I think Self-Pub with Dale really demonstrates this. I'd love to hear from you. Have you used any of these networking strategies? Did they work for you? Let me know in the comments. Now, in addition to networking, if you've already got a book or two published and you want to get some reviews the legit way, click on this playlist right here. Or check out this video that YouTube thinks is perfect for you. Subscribe to the channel, I'll see you there.